Is leaving an option?
Apparently, leaving is only an option for strangers. If you're family, you're trapped here.
Oh, good. You finally get it.
Back to the Pete McMurray Show.
You ever notice in most families when something needs to get handled, it's the daughter who steps up, the calls, the appointments, the emotional glue. There's actually a term for it. It's called good daughtering. Dr. Allison Alford is a leading researcher in family communication, and she's breaking down why this happens, what it costs, and why it matters in her new book called Good Daughtering, and she joins us now. Dr. Allison, explain to people what good daughtering is.
Hi, thanks for having me. I have been studying this topic for over 10 years and talking to hundreds of women and asking them, what does it mean to be an adult daughter? What is happening there? What is it like? What are the responsibilities and what are the benefits? And what I found is that daughtering is a form of work. It is labor. It uses our resources, and women give their resources to their family in order to form connection. So daughtering is a form of logistical, emotional, mental, and identity work that can leave women feeling dry, and they're burnt out before they even realize that they're doing it.
Why is it the daughters and not the sons that are the caregivers?
Why
yeah,
do
that's
you
such
think,
a great...
Pete? Don't you think as a little boy, your mom made your lunch, did your laundry, packed you, got you ready for your big game? You didn't have to think about your baseball uniform. It was ready. And your wife made sure your suit was pressed back from the dry cleaner. So the cycle just continues.
I understand that. I'm different. I come from a family of 12, which we'll get into because I'm right in the middle. But yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I think there's it's a perfect question. It's a really good question, is why women instead of men? And I first want to say it's not that men are not doing any of this. You know, I have a wonderful partner who does some great sunning, as I call it. And the difference is really that cultural expectation that society expects women to turn back to our family more, to care, to check in, to be there, to show up. And men are often encouraged to go spread their wings and find fulfillment elsewhere or achieve some sort of goal. And that is okay for that to be away from the family, but women are expected to stay close.
I have 4 sisters and a 90-year-old mother, and it goes boy, girl at the top, and 2 sisters at the bottom. And you're right. It's the sisters, it's the daughters that step up right away. They've always done that my entire life. Oh, let's get mom and dad a gift. Let's give Mary or die the money. Those are my 2 oldest sisters. It's always been that way. They've always been in charge since I was a young kid. And now my mother has to go to doctor's appointments, and God bless them. I try to step up, but my mother just wants to go back to them too.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, it's so interesting to hear you say that that's the way that it's always been, because I think that many times we aren't really realizing or noticing when it started or how it started or where this training came from. That's what makes daughtering invisible. It is happening, but we're not talking about it. We're not noticing it. We're not realizing where that training came from. We're not realizing how many resources, time, energy, money that it takes from the people doing it. And I love your sentiment, Pete, that you want to do more. And I think that's what I would encourage families to, you know, we've got to offload some of the responsibilities and we've got to share them. So excellent sons who step up and say, I want to do more. And daughters have to be willing to let other people do stuff, even if you don't quite do it well at the beginning, because you haven't been doing it for decades.
Yeah, and I think that's a trap we all fall into, is that if you've been over-functioning in a certain role, it's hard to give that up because you might not have the mental capacity to explain all of the ins and outs, you know, to explain mom's exact medicine routine and all the meds and where they go and what she wants to eat them with sometimes feels more exhausting than just you handling it again for another week.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, you know, describing that mental piece, right? The worry, the training, the supervision, the CEO mentality. And ultimately, my desire would be for us to, as a culture, start talking about this more so that we're not in these critical situations where we're like, only one person knows or has the training. But we're talking about it way earlier in life. And in my book, one of the things that I go into a lot is that women are doing daughtering much earlier in life than we realize. It's not only once our parent is elderly or ill, or if they have a knee surgery or something. We're doing daughtering over the whole lifespan, over all of our adulthood. And those are the times where we need to tell our stories to our peers, to our siblings, about what's going on, what we're handling, what we're managing, and learn how to partner with others in that work.
Gosh, that's so true. I look back, or I think back when I was in grammar school, my two sisters used to walk me to and from school if we needed a snack, because they were much older than I was. But yeah, they're going to love hearing that. But you're right. They started at a young age. But, everyone think of people that have older parents. It's always the daughter. Why is that? And why is no one talking about this?
It's been invisible for years and years and years. And I mean, decades. And I think that as a society, we're ready to talk about all kinds of forms of invisible labor. Part of the cultural story recently in the past decade has been, who's doing the housework? Who's doing the childcare work? There's some really great books and great speakers who are coming out and saying, let's make it visible how much effort it is to think about the dentist appointment. To think about who's picking up somebody from daycare on a sick day. And so we're having that conversation about parenting and about partnership and house maintenance. Those are things we call social reproductive labor. And I think we're ready to have this conversation about who's doing the family work, the stuff that's needed to keep a family glued together, the stuff that is like who keeps the traditions going, who makes sure that the fun games are done, the game we always do every year is done, who makes sure that the gifts are bought or that the special food is there or that everybody's included in the family vacation invite. And we have to make it more obvious and visible that it's daughters doing that. And then we can start to change it or partner with our other siblings.
Yeah, you're mentioning all that, and I'm thinking of the people in my family who do it. And I'm like, oh, it's my sister who makes sure we have my Nana's cookies every Christmas. She brings the games. And then I'm like, uh-oh, I'm not being a very good daughter in the daughtering game. I'm just showing up.
You need to step it up.
But you do think about, Pete, like, it's not always the big things like someone's in the hospital. It is the little things like Thanksgiving.
Oh, yeah.
Planning the lake house. Who's making sure there's a bed for everyone? Who's spending 3 weeks on Airbnb trying to find the exact correct property? Like, it takes so much time. And then you go to the men in the family and they spend 10 seconds looking at your 3 hours of research and they go, whatever you pick is fine. And that's like so infuriating to everyone because you're like, I spent so much time on this. You gave it 10 seconds. And then when we get there, you're going to ask me why we don't have a gas grill instead of a charcoal grill, and then I'm going to throw a phone at your head.
Yeah. It's, I think, Lisa, too, you're not giving yourself enough credit. You're really not giving yourself enough credit for a lot of daughtering that you're doing that is not just task stuff. So the first step is to notice all the task stuff that daughters do, like the planning of the, vacation and the holiday meals. But there's also the emotional stuff. And one of the things my sister and I decided, so it's two sisters, but I'm the younger sister. We decided that, my older sister is good at task stuff and she lives near my parents. So she does things like hanging out with them, cooking them a meal, something like that. And I do emotional stuff. And I have to give myself credit for a phone call where I spent time asking questions and listening deeply and engaging. Sometimes it's hard as a daughter to give yourself credit that was a form of work, that was a gift to my family, because I can't just walk down the street and take them some soup. But I have to recognize I'm not doing nothing. I'm doing the emotional heavy lifting in our family. And that is valuable and it is something I'm grateful to do, but it's also hard work and something I've become skilled at over time.
Dr. Allison Alford is our guest. The book is called Good Daughtering. Can we talk about birth order? Lisa you have 2 sisters and a brother, 4 in your family, correct?
Correct. I'm 3 out of 4.
3 out of 4. Where do you stand in the birth order?
I just said 3 out of 4.
I mean, third out of 4. Okay. I'm number 6 out of 12. What does that say? Birth order. So she's second to last. I'm stuck in the middle.
But you do see that daughtering, I'm in the sandwich of the daughters. You know, I have an older sister, and there definitely is a hierarchy, I feel, within daughters themselves in a family unit, that the older ones have seemed to have naturally taken on more
1,000%
of these responsibilities than some of the younger ones. And we, like you said, we have to find other ways to show up. The phone calls, maybe a card in the mail, maybe helping with tech assistance over the phone, as opposed to being like, I'm the one taking over Christmas.
Yeah. You know, there's a lot of great dialogue around birth order. And I'll say, as a researcher, we don't have any strong evidence yet that birth order is causal, right? Or that it causes someone to act in a certain way. But what I tell to all the eldest daughters out there, because we're having, again, I think if you've heard of it, the eldest daughter syndrome is a big discussion culturally right now. Why do the eldest daughters or the oldest female child seem to take on more responsibility for keeping the family together? You know, I tell those daughters, well, I don't have the research that is a for sure thing scientifically, but if it feels like it is to you, then I think it must be. And part of discussing that pain point is that then we can start to ameliorate it. We can start to make things better. And it's not just our other siblings who we can share that with. You know, there are only daughters out there, or people whose siblings are off in the military and they literally can't do anything to help. We can get partnership from our partner, our spouse. You know, when I'm going on a trip to see my parents, I'm like prepping my spouse and my children, who are, you know, teenagers. They're older teenagers, so they're very aware and helpful. I'm giving all of them jobs. I'm like, all right, if Grammy starts talking about this, you chime in and start talking about this, and this.
Yeah.
Or if my dad brings up that,
so smart.
Your job is to change the subject to the weather. I'm getting help from everywhere. But those things can really make a difference over time, because these people are going to be around.
Such a great topic. The book is called Good Daughtering. Dr. Allison Alford, thanks for sharing.
Thanks so much for having me.
More of The Pete McMurray Show next.